Michelle, are you ready?
I was born ready.
She's an award-winning author, speaker, and podcast host who serves on the National Faith Advisory Council. She supported Donald J. Trump for president before it was cool, from her she shed in her beautiful backyard. This is the Michelle Moore Show.
2024 is the final battle. They're going after Trump, and if they can get Trump, it means they can get you, they can get me, they can get all of us. He is standing in the way, and that can sound like a campaign slogan, but it's very true. Now we're approaching the most important battle of our lives. Now, for the very first time in American history, a sitting president's DOJ has indicted his top political rival ahead of a presidential campaign. When they indicted me for nothing, I said, now the gloves are off. Now we have to say if I can see the truth.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, and I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, can you feel it coming in the air tonight?
Now we're approaching the most important battle of our lives.
Oh Lord.
If you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
Well, you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand. I've seen your face before, my friend, but I don't know if you know who I am. Well, I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes. Still you couldn't wipe out that grin. I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies.
If you have a problem with someone, you have to go after them. And it's not necessarily to teach that person a lesson. It's to teach all of the people that are watching a lesson.
The last time we ever met, but I know the reason why you keep your silence.
When we get back in the White House, I will totally obliterate the deep state.
The hurt doesn't show, but the pain still grows. Some strangers to you and me. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord.
When we get back power, I don't really want to have peace with these people who did this to us and are continuing to do this to us. We have to turn the tables on them, give them a dose of their own medicine, and then we can even the playing field, and then we can discuss unity.
Hello, everybody. So glad that you're here with us today. All right. So there's some breaking news. We're going to cover the breaking news. This has made us go in a little bit of a different direction, but we're still going to be covering Linwood whistleblower stuff today as well. It's going to be a little bit longer show, not just an hour. It'll be a little bit more, and you're going to see why. But first, you remember yesterday we had Mark Taylor on with us, and we got to talk about all different kinds of stuff going on with the storm that's happened. Well, we also talked about the ports. Remember, we were talking about how the ports could close down. Well, we saw a video earlier today from the president of the dock workers, and we want to show you this video. It's just a quick little 1.5 minute long video. Let's take a look real quick.
These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, Be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
All right, there you go. Is the supply chain fragile? I think that we're fixing to find out if this keeps going the way it is. So just a heads up, I thought this was a really good video for everybody to see. All right, we're going to go on ahead and move on. So we're going to move into the breaking news. We're talking about within the last 2 hours, breaking news about the new allegations against Sean Diddy Combs. Now, oh my goodness, it was so good. Producer Ron remembered a show where I did an opening monologue that was back from February the 28th. So we're going to show you about a 10-minute clip of some things that I said back then about Sean Diddy Combs. And then we're going to show you some stuff that is absolutely jaw-dropping from today and is what led us to going on ahead and kind of rearranging today's show a little bit. So let's take a look at some things that I said and some things I showed you and some resources that we were giving you on MichelleMooreShow.com, which are still there for you. And so let's take a look real quick. All right. So I don't know if you've heard about this P. Diddy thing, but I wanted to kind of update you. So I started kind of thinking there may be something to this P. Diddy stuff a couple of months ago. I kept seeing stuff about, Sean Combs. We know him as Puffy. P. Diddy has got a million different nicknames. But anyways, so what happened is I got suspicious that maybe there was some significance to this because I kept seeing stuff about it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there is. We'll just kind of wait and see. And then I was on the phone with Megan Walsh, and she mentions to me, people don't realize how big this Sean Puffy, P. Diddy, whatever, Sean Combs case is, and that this is a really big deal. And so I was like, really? Okay. So she confirmed to me that I needed to be just kind of on the lookout. Well, then today I see where Ariel, there's an account on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I call it Twitter, where he was talking about it. I've seen some other things. Then I came across some videos. So in all of my research, so I've got 2 videos for you and some images. And I want you to know there's some court documents that have come out. And thank you, Ariel, for that. But I ended up hosting the court documents for you, downloading them, hosting them. So if you go to MichelleMooreShow.com, it's right there at the top, first black rectangularly shaped button. You know the drill. And so I already have it for you. So all you have to do is go to MichelleMooreShow.com, click on that button that says, I think it's like it's Jones versus Combs, I think is what it says. And so the PDF is there for you to be able to read it. You can download it. You can do whatever you want to do. So I've got it for you, but let me tell you, this is a big deal. I figure Kanye, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Britney Spears, and Diddy, from what I can tell and what I kind of figure from everything I've already seen and just different things going on, I'm figuring that those are going to be what takes down the music industry. And of course, P. Diddy is the rap industry, and you're going to hear all the blackmail and all the craziness that's going on. There's a lot of stuff apparently in this 72 pages that you can get on MichelleMooreShow.com. So it's a PDF for you, but I got to tell you, so shout out to Megan Walsh and to Ariel, because they really helped me to kind of piece together a few things and just confirm that yeah, this is something we all need to be paying attention to. I think it's going to end up being extremely significant. And so, and I think it's already starting to show those signs. So just keep your eyes open. So not sure if you're hearing about it and keeping track of it, but just want you to get, and look, this case is not just against Diddy. It's also against Universal Music Group, Motown Records. There are people's names and corporate and company names that are not even listed, that are just saying, 1 through 10 kind of thing. But let's take a look. So we have 2 videos for you. So let's take a look at the first one on this case.
Just read the court documents about the allegations from Lil Rod about Diddy, and it looks like Epstein level exposing of the rap industry right now. It names names. He has photos. He has physical evidence. He has audio recordings. Literally everything from Diddy being involved in murders, Diddy being involved in sexual assault, grooming, drugging people. It even goes so far to name Cuba Gooding Jr. as being involved in all of this. It has some redacted names. They seem to be about Meek Mill and Chris Brown, but again, they're redacted, so you can't be 100% sure, but the things that are said about them seem to indicate that those are the people that they're talking about, and indicating that those people were having sex with underage girls. There is a whole bunch of allegations of how Diddy would use his positions of power to sexually assault males and then blackmail them into not saying anything, because obviously, like, homophobia inside the rap industry is very prevalent. So the allegations are that he would blackmail people underneath him by saying, like, oh, I recorded this and I will show it to everybody. If even 10% of what is alleged inside of this court document is true, they need to put Diddy under the jail. And 50 Cent is going to have the best time talking about this over the next month.
Okay, so when I saw this video, I know what he's talking about. So there's some kind of background with 50 Cent. So let's take a look at this. I happened to screenshot it, thought, oh, this might be significant at some point. So then I come across that video. I'm like, there you go. So 50 Cent, you can see here, I don't know if this was an Instagram post or if it was a tweet, but 50 Cent said, ain't saying nothing, but something ain't right, LMAO. So these photos are online, and he's, got a post, 50 Cent does, that he does this post with these 2 photos with Diddy, with these men. And he's just saying, hey, look, ain't saying nothing, but something ain't right. And so anyways, not sure when 50 Cent first saw or, came out with all this. It could have been a few years ago. I don't know. But I came across a tweet that said, this was when 50 Cent first realized something was up. Not sure, though, about the date, but I just thought, oh, my goodness, this is crazy. So then I came across a second video about this. It's a little bit more detailed, and I wanted to show this to you as well. So let's take a look.
Talking about this being a criminal enterprise that's all feeding towards this one individual's depravity of wanting drugs and sex and rock and roll and everything in between, that everyone seemed to know and go out and facilitate what Sean Diddy Combs wanted. Even in part of these allegations or these complaints, they call his chief of staff the Ghislaine Maxwell to P. Diddy's Jeffrey Epstein, saying that this was a total sexual enterprise to feed into his desires.
We have sexual assault allegations. We have sexual harassment allegations relating to what he deems to be an employment relationship. We have allegations that Sean Combs and his son were involved in a shooting, and that he was told to helped to cover up that shooting with the police, that he was told to lie to police. We have that he was groomed to engage in intercourse with another man, with other men. We also have these really serious sex trafficking allegations, that they were eliciting underage sex workers, bringing them across state lines, and RICO racketeering allegations, which mean in furtherance of a criminal enterprise that relates to drug use and the solicitation of sex workers.
Does he get cover? This is a civil suit. Does he get cover for acknowledging his behavior in criminal activities, or does he say it was all forced?
That's what I found to be so interesting about this. He actually admits in this complaint that he lied to police officers, and he's just saying that he was under the manipulation, the fear of threat and intimidation by Combs. So that's not necessarily enough to save you if there were to be a criminal inquiry down the line.
So it's a risk to kind of thicken out the situation, because now there could be an after effect. He could get a settlement here, or he could go to trial and win this and then wind up having his own legal problems.
A lot of these allegations are criminal in nature, although this is a civil complaint. So presumably, if it were investigated and deemed to have some veracity, there would be more to this.
But this is based on sex trafficking allegations as well as claims that are criminal in nature. For me, I'm thinking SDNY, that being the Southern District of New York, right here in Manhattan, they're probably looking at these allegations and thinking, where are the videos? Where are these still shots that we're seeing in these complaints? And can we investigate it to see if there's more here, potentially criminal charges?
Now, his allegation is Combs forced him to solicit sex workers and underage girls for sex. Okay. But also drugged him, sexually assaulted him, and groomed him to have sex with other men.
So if you see me looking down, I'm looking down at the 73-page complaint that was filed yesterday. In terms of allegations of celebrities, we're talking about Cuba Gooding Jr. being shown through still photos of what the complainant says they have videos of groping him. There are allegations of P. Diddy touching the genitalia and anus of the complainant. And also, if you look to the complaint here, there's a few Easter eggs here where it says the rapper redacted on Mr. Combs' yacht consorting with underage girls and sex workers. And you look down to the redaction, it says, well, the person is a Philly rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. I think that may be Meek Mills. And also says an R&B singer redacted in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home, consorting with underage girls and sex worker. When you go down to the redaction, it says he's a Grammy Award-winning R&B singer who had trouble with law enforcement after assaulting a Bayesian billionaire. I don't know who's a billionaire from Barbados that we know that dated someone. That sounds like Chris Brown. So there's a lot of big names here, both as Easter eggs and also just on the front pages of these allegations.
Wow, just huge. Now, the lawsuit also claims the misconduct happened during the creation of Diddy's latest album, the Love album, and is seeking, as we've mentioned, $30 million. The suit not only names the mogul, but includes his son and Universal Music Group, claiming there's an alleged RICO enterprise to enable his misconduct. Explain why the lawsuit goes beyond Diddy and what's kind of at stake here.
This, along with Cassie's lawsuit that you talked about earlier that was settled, reads a lot like what we saw in the R. Kelly case in the EDNY.
Okay, so much information. All right, but let's recap. So we're talking about murder, murders, plural, sexual assault, grooming, and drugging. But what kind of stands out to me, though, is that this is making the Mockingbird media news. And so you've got Cuomo talking about it, and you have it on ABC News. So I see this as, it's connected even with, if it is Cuba Gooding Jr. connected with all that, which images that I've seen already online last night looks like him. But you're talking about Hollywood, some Hollywood being connected with that. And then also you're talking about the rap part of the music industry. And so I think that's all very interesting, and we'll have to keep an eye on it. But I'm wondering what else it's going to lead to. And you heard at the beginning of this last video where they're even linking it to Ghislaine and him being the Epstein of the rap industry. So lots of things coming out. I think it'll be interesting to see how this continues to evolve. But I think that there are already a lot of jaws dropping from the information in the 70-plus page document that I've got on MichelleMooreShow.com for you to be able to check out after the show. All right, so that was back from February the 28th. Of course, look at how it has aged. We're going to have Megan Walsh here. She is the daughter of John Walsh. She's going to be here on Friday. There's going to be plenty that it's going to be talked about with CPS. Of course, the Diddy thing. She told me months ago, I even talked about that at the beginning of what we just showed you, where she had said, hey, just keep an eye. It's going to be Diddy. When Diddy starts coming out, you're going to know that it's going to be big. And so I thought that, it was great when we talked about this back in February that so much was coming out, but now it's jaw dropping. And what I mean by that, take a look at the breaking stuff for today. This is absolute incredible detail, even though they're not naming names yet, but he says, we're going to be naming names. Today's just not the day, but listen to the details that he gives us today. It's absolutely amazing. I think it's drip, 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 because I think a lot of what's going on here is that people are going to, and he talks about like fans which means fanatics, and about how he's already getting death threats and those kinds of things. There are people that just love different famous people. They call themselves fans, but they're also just willing to do and say whatever it takes to protect those that they're such great fans of. And he talks about that as well. But let's take a listen to today's breaking news.
As many of you know, our law firm has been at the forefront of some of the most important litigation in the United States. We like the tough cases. We thrive in the complicated cases. We've handled over the last 25 years some very big and very important cases. I believe that this one may surpass them all. There are many facets to this. The conduct we will describe today occurred over more than 20 years. There are many people and many entities involved. And we're going to follow this evidence wherever it takes us. We will find the silent accomplices. We will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors. We will pursue this matter no matter who the evidence implicates. These brave victims who have stepped forward deserve nothing less. The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward. Our team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us with people claiming to have been victimized by Sean Combs. After vetting, we now represent 120 individuals who intend to bring civil claims in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs, as well as claims against many other individuals and entities that we will name as defendants as we file these individual cases. And you should know, to the extent the clients feel comfortable, we also intend to make these individuals available to the authorities, specifically to the FBI. And you should also know a few of them have already been spoken to by the FBI. Now, before we discuss the nature of the claims and claimants themselves, let me comment on the large volume of calls we have received since our first announcement. Even before the indictment of Sean Combs, we had received a small volume of calls and had screened a handful of cases. After the indictment of Sean Combs and the announcement that we were pursuing these claims, the floodgates opened. People who wouldn't otherwise, for a variety of reasons, are now stepping forward to make their voices heard and to pursue justice. But no, most of these people are scared. They fear backlash in their communities. They fear backlash in their own families. They are afraid of retaliation from the perpetrators and their associates. They are rightly afraid for their own personal safety. I expect that through this process, many powerful people will be exposed. Many dirty secrets will be revealed. We know what we are potentially up against. And as is always the case in situations like this, when a celebrity is involved, people can be downright mean and nasty. You would be shocked at the length fans will go, no matter the evidence to the contrary, to defend celebrities they love. I mean, there's a reason for this word fans. They're fanatics. I've personally already been threatened multiple times on social media. And when I agreed to pursue this, I expected as much. This isn't my first rodeo. But victims who step forward to have their voices heard should not be subjected to that kind of conduct. They should not be targeted. I want to say this, and I want to be clear about it. Although we are vetting each call as stringently as we can, I always start with a mindset that I believe victims. I believe victims because I understand the tremendous courage it takes to step forward. So if you're watching this, please hear me. If you're out there and you have been victimized, you are not alone. There is a great strength in numbers. You can seek redress. You can obtain justice. We can help you, and we will help you. That being said, as stated, we are vetting every call that we receive. We have had to turn away some. For each, we ask for corroboration. For each, we ask for the identity of witnesses. We also have collected pictures, videos, texts. We check venues, we check dates. We want to corroborate that the claims being made have legitimacy and merit. We have on staff now a former detective from the Major Offenders Unit of Houston Police Department who is helping us vet each claim. We're using our common sense. We're being stringent because, as I said, these are not easy cases. They're very tough. The process is hard, and in some cases, the process is very lengthy. These cases are hard to prove. Many times, it's the victim's word against the alleged perpetrator. Each of these victims will no doubt be publicly attacked by the alleged perpetrators, and in some cases, the general public. The feckless and cowardly keyboard warriors love to attack. We know what we're up against. We did not enter this fray blindly. I wish it was my last such fray. I wish this type of behavior wasn't so pervasive, but it is what it is, so we will press on. As I said, our law firms have been retained by 120 individuals at this point to pursue cases in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs. You should know, in this group, it is evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females who have joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs. In this group, 62% identify as African American, 30% are white, and the remainder are Hispanic or Asian. The victims are from more than 25 states. The majority are from California, New York, Georgia, and Florida. I don't want to focus on the ages of these victims. When we talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of. The time frame of the acts complained of is very wide. The conduct at issue spans from the years 1991 all the way till this year, 2024. If you wonder why there are so many alleged victims, that's your answer. We're talking about more than 25 years of this type of conduct. Now, although most of the victims who have stepped forward were victimized after 2015, this has been going on for a very long time. Now, when you think about the fact that some of this conduct occurred 25 years ago, and you wonder why would it take somebody so long to step forward, I want to remind you that many states in the United States have recognized that it's very difficult for a victim to step forward and to make these types of allegations when something very terrible has happened to them. I'll use New York, the state of New York, as an example. The state of New York has specific statutes in place that revive claims that are even claims that would typically be not able to be brought, that it revives such claims and they can be brought even 25 to 30 years later. Because there's a recognition there in New York and California and other states that it's very difficult for a victim to come forward. And I would respectfully suggest the only reason many of these people are coming forward because they see other victims coming forward. And it gives them some comfort that, hey, I won't be the only one. And I expect more victims will come forward. You know, there's an old saying that says, a lie has great speed, but truth has endurance. The acts complained of in these cases that we're going to file occurred primarily in New York, either Manhattan or the Hamptons, or occurred in California, primarily in Los Angeles, or in Florida, primarily in Miami. Most of these events and incidents occurred at parties, typically after parties, or album release parties, New Year's Eve parties, 4th of July parties, something they called a puppy party, the all-white party, although several of these events occurred at auditions. Many times, especially young people wanting to break into the industry, were coerced into this type of conduct. in the promise of being made a star, or in the promise of having Sean Combs listen to their tape or even let them read for Sean Combs. You should know that some of this behavior occurred at well-known venues in New York City. Some of this behavior occurred at private residences of people that we all know. Some of this behavior occurred at hotels that we're all familiar with. You should know that more than 55% of the victims filed reported this conduct to either the authorities, that is the police, or to hospitals. We're in the process of collecting with our team assistants medical records, reports that were made to the authorities, and I've already said that some of the individuals in this group did in fact talk to the FBI. You should know that several of the individuals, and when I say several, I mean many, who did in fact seek medical treatment were drug tested, and drugs were found in their system, weird drugs that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called xylazine, or trank, which based on our research is known as a horse tranquilizer. Now, there's been a lot of reports that we're filing a class action. This is not a class action. Class action is when one or two people file a case on behalf of a group of people. That's not this. These cases will be individual cases. Each case will live and die on its own merit. These cases will be filed individually, one plaintiff against whoever the defendants were involved in the case. Each case may be filed in one venue like California, another case may be filed in New York. One case may sue just Sean Combs, but multiple other people. One case may sue a range of people. I would expect most, though, to be filed, as I said, thinking or hoping, or perhaps believing that I may start naming names. Well, that day will come, but it won't be today. The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are names that will shock you. These are individual cases. There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. But I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are. I call them the facilitators of foul play, willing participants in vile conduct. As we identify them, each will be part of this case as defendants. These defendants will not only include individuals, but would also include corporate entities who ultimately profited off of this culture and behavior. I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels. We know that many of these individuals were paid cash. We know that many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused, or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave. And then threatened as they were leaving. So in addition to Sean Combs, you should know the defendants in these cases we're going to file will include anyone, of course, who engaged in the assault or exploitation, anyone who participated in such in any way, anyone who encouraged or facilitated this conduct, anyone who was in the room and watched it happen but made no effort to stop it, any venue or venue owner who was aware of what was going on but failed to stop it, any individual or entity who knew about the conduct and benefited from it but did nothing to report it or stop it, and any individual or entity who covered it up or helped cover it up. These people who know who they are should just come forward now. I would imagine, as we speak here, there are a myriad of people who are very nervous. You can't hide skeletons in the closet forever. I would expect there are many people out there right now who are desperately searching their memories as they delete their texts and data. Now, although these are, in fact, individual cases, there is a common theme, an MO, if you will. Typically, the victim is lured into a situation where he or she is given a drink. Typically, that drink, reported by these victims, is apparently laced with something. Once that drink takes effect, the perpetrators perform all kinds of sexual acts on the victims, many times passing him or her around as other people watch and enjoy the show, and then leave the victim ashamed, confused, injured, and wondering what happened. When the victim reaches out, he or she is told not to say anything. Sometimes there are threats of physical violence or financial repercussions or bodily harm. The claims we intend to bring will include the following: violent sexual assault or rape, sexual abuse, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, false imprisonment, compelling prostitution, sexual misconduct, dissemination of video recordings, false imprisonment, sexual abuse of minors. Given the large volume of cases, and given our other docket obligations, and given the fact that we want to be sure when we file these cases that they are fully vetted, I expect we'll start filing these cases against Sean Combs and other perpetrators within the next 30 days. Now, it's rare, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, this type of activity is pervasive in our society, and it's rare we get a chance where we can really focus on this as a country and really focus on this about how pervasive this is and what we as collectively can do about it. So I thought I'd take this opportunity before I go into some of the individual cases and talk about some of the individual claims being made and so you'll get a sense of what this 120 people group looks like individually. I want to bring forward Carrie Paul. She's a national victim advocate who helps victims who have been victimized by this type of conduct. And she has some important words, and I hope you'll pay close attention. I think it's important that you hear from her.
Hello, I'm Carrie Paul with the National Victim Advocate. It's not easy for any survivor to come forward. Our culture doesn't believe survivors. It blames and questions them. Instead of showing support, many choose to enable abusers. The media runs stories asking why it took so long for survivors to come forward instead of asking what barriers exist. We also don't equip law enforcement with the ability to handle sexual assault crimes. Lack of funding translates to lack of training. We have officers in the field that don't know what to say to a rape victim, and also an alarming amount of backlogged, untested rape kits. Prosecutors are focused on what they can prove in a case, and if so, how to do that at time of trial. Advocates and staff are stretched thin with growing caseloads in the criminal justice system. Most people don't know how the criminal justice works in general. There isn't enough staff or resources to adequately explain the entire process to every victim and survivor. Our culture works against victims and survivors every day, and abusers know this. Abusers work themselves into positions of power, building a public image that is trusted and financially large enough to make people look away. Abusers are unfortunately very skilled at power and control, the foundation of abuse. They seek victims who are vulnerable, such as children, their employees, and their intimate partners, all who see a different version than the public does, all who rely on the abuser in some way. And for those that do come forward and aren't believed, face questions like, are you sure it happened that way? Were you drinking? What were you wearing? All of this creates an environment that enables abusers to continue abusing them and future victims. To the survivors that have come forward despite not being believed at some point in time, your courage is like nothing we have seen before. We thank you for coming forward for yourself and all survivors. And lastly, I want all survivors that are watching this to know we believe you and we support you. Thank you.
I want you now to hear from my co-counsel, Andrew Van Arsdale. You know, we've created a sexual abuse hotline, and I want him to visit with us just a few moments about how that works and the kind of volume of calls we've received.
Thank you, Tony. Like Tony said, my name is Andrew Van Arsdale. I'm the managing partner of ABA Law Group. We have offices in California, Montana, and North Carolina. To build off of what you just so well said, it's very hard to come forward. And given what we've experienced the past 10 days is really unprecedented in my career, at least. We represent thousands of survivors of abuse, and never, ever in a 10-day period have we seen over 3,000 people come forward, or we've confirmed and decided to investigate and represent 120 people while we're continuing to work through another 100+ cases to prove them up, to validate what had happened here, and to hold those that are responsible accountable. And so like Tony said, we've set this up. It's 1-800-200-7474. I have a team of people standing by literally. If you know that this happened to someone and you have information about it, please contact us. If this happened to you, come forward. There's attorney-client privilege here. What you tell us is in confidence. Yes, we'll have to go out and build your case, but we will protect you. And the other thing that I want to say is the pattern and practice of this, again, is unprecedented. Over 30+ years of the same sort of events happening, people thrust into the circle reportedly, and horrible things happening to them as a result. And from talking to these people that have come forward these past 10 days, I can tell you unequivocally that because the federal government did what it needed to do and indicted this man, that they put him in jail and a judge kept him in jail, they tell me directly, this validates my feelings. For so long, I thought it was my fault. What is it about me that put myself in that scenario? What was I wearing at the time? What did I do to be subjected to such horrific treatment at these people that I was trying to trust? Well, we know now it was not your fault. You were victimized by a group of powerful people that operated for 30+ years, taking advantage of their wealth and the power that they held within the music industry. So again, thank you to every single person that has come forward and contacted our office over the past 10 days. If you or someone you know suffered the same sort of treatment, please contact us at the number behind me and we will help you. Thank you.
I think it speaks to how important this issue is in the United States and frankly internationally, that we have reputable people here that want to provide kind of information that I think victims need to hear, witnesses need to hear, the public needs to hear. Let me introduce to you now Olivia Rivers from the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, and let her visit with you a few moments about these types of cases.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Q Olivia Rivers. I am just served my 6th year as the board chair for the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. I'm also the CEO for the Bridge Over Troubled Waters, which is a local rape crisis center here in the Houston area. So thank you for being here as we address these heinous crimes. Sexual assault is not just a crime of violence against the body. It's an assault on the very essence of human dignity and safety. It shatters lives, it destroys confidence, and all too often, it leaves survivors feeling like they are voiceless, isolated, and vulnerable. The reality for many survivors is that coming forward to report their assault is one of the most difficult and daunting tasks that they will ever have to do. And for some, it may take days, months, or even years to speak up, if they ever do. The reasons for this have been mentioned, but include the fear of being disbelieved, being blamed or judged, and of course, retaliation. The trauma of the assault itself being compounded by the trauma of the criminal justice process, where survivors must relive their experience in order to seek justice. And these feelings and fears are further exacerbated when the allegations are against prominent figures in the entertainment industry or Hollywood. Cases involving powerful figures often attract significant media attention, which can deter victims from coming forward due to fear of public exposure or scrutiny. The intense focus on these high-profile cases can make survivors feel that their personal lives are being put under a microscope, causing further emotional distress. These allegations mentioned here today, as reported, reflect deeply troubling claims that deserve thorough investigation, and no individual, regardless of their stature, is above the law or public accountability. Sadly, the statistics paint a very disturbing picture. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. In the US alone, there are approximately 463,000 victims of rape or sexual assault every year, and these numbers barely scratch the surface, as sexual violence remains one of the most underreported crimes. But the numbers that follow tell an even more troubling story. Only about 23% of sexual assaults are reported to law enforcement. Of those, just 5% lead to an arrest, and even fewer, less than 1% of reported cases, ever result in a conviction, which is a devastating gap between the crime and the justice that survivors deserve. I want to briefly focus on our state here in Texas. According to the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, 6.3 million Texans, men and women, will experience some form of violence. That's every 2 minutes someone is sexually assaulted, meaning during the course of this press conference, around 60 individuals will forever be changed by this violence. And those are just a few of the victims. Obviously, this is unacceptable. We cannot allow this cycle of silence and inaction to continue. We have to create an environment where survivors feel empowered to come forward, where they are met with empathy and respect and support, not skepticism and blame. We have to ensure that our legal system is equipped to handle these cases with the seriousness they deserve, and that survivors have access to the resources that they need beyond the legal courtroom. We have to address the root causes of this epidemic: prevention, awareness, and fostering environments where respect, consent, and safety are non-negotiable values. Additionally, support for survivors has to be holistic. They have to have access to counseling, medical services, legal advocacy, and of course, community support, regardless of whether they choose to report or not. To every survivor who has come forward, your bravery is an inspiration. To those who are still grappling with their decision, know that you are not alone and that your voice matters. Your story matters. We see you, we believe you, and we are committed to fighting for a future where sexual violence is no longer tolerated and where justice is not the exception, but the standard. Thank you.
I want to visit with you real quickly before we close here about some specific instances without disclosing the victim's name. You probably know that depending on the age of the victim, you can file these cases, these individual cases, under Jane Doe or John Doe. Each state is different in that respect. Typically, there is a balancing test, like the public's right to know the name of the victim and plaintiff versus the confidentiality and the safety of the plaintiff. So we'll have to struggle with that with each one of these cases. Our intention, of course, is to, like we always do, file these cases under a pseudonym until the court tells us otherwise. But let me share with you a few, just kind of give you a sense of the kind of cases and the kind of instances that people are calling and reporting that we are trying to corroborate, vet, and these are the ones that we've already corroborated, vetted, and collected evidence on. One individual who was 22 years at the time she was assaulted said that the typical MO at one of these parties that have been widely discussed in the press was that when you were handed a drink, and now we know that the drink is laced with something, if you refused to drink it, you were kicked out of the party. Now, let that sink in for a minute. I mean, the admission to this party was that you had to drink the chosen drink that was handed to you, and now we know that in most cases, I would say 90% of the cases, these individuals were drugged with some sort of drug. That was kind of the MO. Another instance, this individual who was 9 years old at the time was taken to an audition in New York City with Bad Boy Records. Other boys were there to audition as well. All of them were trying to land a record deal. All of them were minors. This individual was sexually abused, allegedly by Sean Combs and several other people at the studio in the promise to both his parents and to him himself of getting a record deal. Another instance, another minor, told allegedly by Sean Combs that he would make him a star, but he needed to visit with him in private about it, away from his parents. Once they were in a private area, allegedly Mr. Combs made the victim perform oral sex upon him. Another incident, an individual 15 years old at the time, flown to New York City to attend a party, was drugged, and then taken into a private room, allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs, where this female individual, minor, was raped, and then other individuals took turns raping her. Another individual, 26 at the time of the occurrence, was picked up allegedly by Mr. Combs and several other people in a black SUV from the airport, was given one drink in the SUV, and then literally woke up the next day not knowing what had happened, but with pain and damage to both her vagina and her anus, where she then went to the hospital. She was missing her underwear and her shoes. Another instance, an individual, this time not a minor, attended a group dinner, allegedly with Sean Combs in Miami. She wasn't drinking because she was pregnant, but whatever she drank at the table, apparently, at least according to her, was laced with something. She blacked out, and she woke up in the same bed, again, allegedly, with Mr. Combs in his mansion in Miami. Her vagina and her anus were torn and sore. And I could go on. I mean, literally, you're sensing a theme here. It's the same theme, and it all involves some sort of drug. One instance, an individual who was 20 years old at the time was asked to attend, just saw her on the street, asked to attend a party in a hotel. She was flattered, went to the party, was given one drink and doesn't remember anything else. Ultimately, was so messed up, went to the hospital where they found cocaine and this horse tranquilizer in her blood system. I want to give you a quote from a very young man who told us over the phone about his experience and all the things that happened to him, he says, allegedly at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs and his friends in the effort to try to sign a record deal. This was kind of what he was told he would have to do. His quote is, "Had he not been in power, I feel like I could have been something great. I quit the industry because of what Sean Combs did to me." And that's really what it comes down to. We are pursuing this, asking you to support this effort, to encourage witnesses and victims to come forward and bring your evidence so we can continue to break down this wall of silence and we can continue to have these stories heard. This is the beginning of what I hope to be a national dialogue. This type of sexual assault, sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation should never happen in the United States or anywhere else. This should have never been allowed to go on for so long. This conduct has created a mass of individuals who are injured, scared, and scarred. If you are one of those individuals, we ask you to reach out. If not to us, to someone you trust. If you are someone who witnessed any of these events, we ask you to reach out. Your name can remain confidential. With that, I'll take a few questions, not many, maybe two, but if you have a question, I'll be pleased to try to answer it. Perfect.
How many minors are making accusations in total, and are the feds aware of the allegations of minors in the case?
I don't know what the feds are aware of, okay, but I do know it's 25 out of this 120.
Tony,
But I will say this to that point. We welcome the FBI or any authority who wants to come to us, and we're going to make that available to these victims because I think that's important. My suspicion is, based on talking with these folks, is that the FBI is just not aware of these people. The FBI has talked to some of these folks, and I'm going to try to encourage the victims to, in fact, talk to the FBI because I think they have some very important things to say.
Tony, were all of the children auditioning because they were musicians, or were any of them kids of employees or anything like that?
All seeking either TV or some sort of music career with promises of, we're going to make you a star. Instead, basically did things to them such that they don't want to have anything to do with the entertainment industry ever again. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. We're going to go now. Thank you.
All right, so there you go. So much great information in that. Wanted to make sure that you got to see it. It was just such high value information. And so just want to recap also. So the sexual assault hotline is 1-800-200-7474. One of the things that he said early on, which goes back to what I had mentioned back in February the 28th, was in that show was, they're talking about some corporations that are involved. There's banks, pharmaceutical companies, and hotels. A victim that is as young as 9 years old. Makes me, of course, think about Allie Carter as well. We know that we just ran her video that she aired about being a party favor, as the term is that they use there. And so she was used there at some of these parties with Sean Diddy Combs. And so we're just thinking about her today as well. She was somebody who came forth 3 or 4 years ago, telling the truth about what was going on at these parties and who all was involved. And so I just can't help but think about her today as well. So very interesting. They're saying that they just in the last couple of weeks have already gotten 3,000 calls. They've already decided to represent 120 different people in lawsuits, and they still have 100+ cases that they're looking into that could very well be agreed upon to represent those people as well. And they, of course, are also asking that if you are abused or have been there or know any information, whatever, at these parties, to please call the sexual assault hotline, again, at 800-200-7474. Producer Ron has also put the link to Allie's video in today's show description. So if you go to Rumble and you go to the Michelle Moore Show channel and you go to the show description, you're going to see the link that we aired last week in its entirety. I think it was Wednesday evening, but it's Allie Carter, and what she had to say most recently was about 25-minute long video that we did as a special presentation. Okay, we're going to go on ahead and move on to the Linwood whistleblower. But well, first, actually, I want to show you. So if you go to MichelleMooreShow.com, you can see in, you know, the February 28th stuff that we talked about, that monologue that I had with a couple of different videos. That is I think it's 71-page lawsuit that was filed. And so it's still on MichelleMooreShow.com. I've moved it up to the #2 spot on there. And so it's the Jones versus Combs documents and paperwork, shows you all the different details. Of course, now much more has been coming out, but just wanted to show this to you. So MichelleMooreShow.com is the website. It's like a link tree is what they call it. And so we're going to go through some more of the Linwood whistleblower stuff as well. And so you can click on what I'm getting ready to go over in the first black rectangle. And then, of course, the Jones versus Combs lawsuit documents are all in that second one. Okay, so let's go on ahead and get started. We have gone through a number of these already when it comes to the Linwood whistleblower. So when we say Linwood whistleblower, it's not somebody blowing the whistle on Linwood. It's somebody that was actually John McGreevy is his name. He was a whistleblower. He came forward, and Linwood was who helped this man come forward with the information that he had. I always like to show, I always say, you know, with Linwood, people go, oh, I trust him. I don't trust him. Well, I personally trust him. I think he's been exposing quite a bit of stuff. He's also been consistently saying, hey, fix 2020. You know, in order to be able to go forward. I always thought that there was something to this photo of Linwood in the Oval Office with President Trump. So look at that smile on President Trump. And it always reminds me of his big old smile when he was with the Pope. And of course, the Pope looks like he's going to throw up, but it was a big smile, a really, really big smile. And so I've always thought that that in itself was a calm. We've been covering this. This is our third installment of talking about these different sections that are in these documents. Of course, there's 7 videos as well on MichelleMooreShow.com if you click on the Linwood Whistleblower tab. So there's John McGreevy. He has since passed away. And of course, there's Linwood in that image as well. Thank you, producer Rod. So when it comes to the documents, we've gone through 2 other shows where we've gone through some of these, and we've read off all kinds of things. And so we did in this confidential interview, there is an interviewer. Of course, there's John McGreevy, who's the interviewee. And then there is a female that is sitting in the room as well. So sometimes she pipes up as well. And so we have gone through the Judge Emmett Sullivan section. We've also gone through the Mike Pence section, which had quite a bit of information as well. The Dirty Trick Squad, you learn who's in that and what all they did. And so we've gone through all of that just in the last week. So you can always go back to the Michelle Moore Show Rumble channel and go back and see what all we went through on those. Today, we're going to go through Rod Rosenstein. Actually, I tell you what, no, we're going to go through the Joe Biden one. Let's do that. So we've got a Joe Biden section, and then we'll call it a day. We've got 2 more sections, and we'll cover those in the next week or so. There's Rod Rosenstein, and then there's one called torture. The torture one's pretty long, so we'll do an entire show probably just on that. And that is, if memory serves me right, the torture that John McGreevy endured, and you'll hear about all that. Okay, so when it comes to Joe Biden, so the interviewer says, okay, Ryan. So we're talking about John McGreevy, who also goes by Ryan D. White. Ryan Dark White is what the D stands for. Okay, so he says, okay, Ryan, we're just going to ask you one more. We'll discuss a little bit more about what you know about Joe Biden and his predilections toward young children and pedophilia and child pornography, and what you're aware of from the conversations that you've had with Rosenstein and the Dirty Trick Squad. So he's talking about Rod Rosenstein. So he says, Ryan White, John McGreevy says, Biden's a well-known pedophile. It's disgusting. Me and Mrs. We've seen him and family members, him and other children. Most people have seen now the image of him sniffing children in an official capacity. It's an awards ceremony or a promotion ceremony. And many times he can't wait. Is the problem. It's not like he's just over there doing that. Those children have been promised to him for his role in the securities positions for their family members, for their parents. So he can't control himself. So he's anticipating his payoff. So that's why you see these sniffing videos, things like that. So you realize what John McGreevy is saying here It's disgusting. These videos where we have seen where Joe Biden has been sniffing a child and the dad or the mom and or both are standing there, and it's some kind of an award ceremony or a promotion ceremony for daddy. And, you know, Joe Biden's got his paws on the child, and he's knowing that there's a payoff, that there's been an arrangement, so to speak, is what John McGreevy is saying. So some of them are just being, some of them are just him being a disgusting pervert. The other ones, these are payments that he's got, you know, going to get soon that night because he had come through on his, in other words, on his side of the deal. Obama would make all kinds of deals, promote people to this or that, but he always had to get, you know, his percentage is 10%. He had to get something to keep him quiet. There's just unbelievable amounts of child porn online, and the DOJ has terabytes of it, but anything confiscated, anything used was formatted for him for easy use by Sean Bridges, and it would just, it would play. You could just click one thing because it wasn't very because he wasn't very computer suave. And so, or suave, he says he could just click play and it would just play through, you know, everything that was on there due to the format, because many of the things were different types of files. There was phone and camcorder, this or that computer, and he would put them on there for him, talking about Sean Bridges putting the porn on for Joe Biden, for him in separate pictures and video as one click. And then you could go through, and that's one of the jobs that Bridges had, talking about Sean Bridges. They would be supplied to him, and then he would go off to Delaware, and he would, well, that's how they kept him happy and quiet and kept him out of Obama's hair. He never spent any time in DC at night. He'd always go up to Delaware. As far as Delaware, there was a judge, Emmett G. Smith. He owns or did own, I think, you know, he's sold a couple now, but he's the one who owned the homes in Lewes, it's Lewes, Delaware. He owned 3 or 4 homes. They were all the same, small single family homes with a double car garage with a door. And these were the homes that Biden used to be supplied with children. And Sullivan is the same way, but he was doing things there with the little granddaughter and everything. And so and so was his one son. But these are the homes that he used, and Sullivan owned them. So we're talking about Judge Emmett Sullivan. Some of this is going to kind of overlap with other things I've noticed, and so different sections. And so if you haven't heard the other sections, we do recommend that you go back and see those. But if you have heard those shows, there might be a thing or two that's kind of overlapping, but this is its own section. Like I said, he has sold a couple since then, but the records are all there. They're all already obtained. I wonder what that means. He says they're about 20 minutes away from Biden's compound in Delaware. So those townhomes that Judge Emmett Sullivan owned were used for doing all this with the children. Sounds like it was only within 20 minutes of the Biden compound. So that is interesting, pretty close. And he was to be brought in the back seat or SUVs. He would ride in, and the other person showed up, and most of the time they were already there ahead of time, talking about the children already being at the house before Joe Biden would get there. He'd arrive in a back seat. He would just come in, spend whatever time he had in the back, and go back out. Nobody saw a thing. Delaware's also a huge smuggling operation, not well known, but I mean, Delaware is a good corporate state, you know, but for corporate protection, but it's also a humongous haven for registering yachts. The interviewer says, yeah. And John McGreevy proceeds and says thousands upon thousands of yachts are registered there. And they're also used for smuggling. I mean, higher end children, which is disgusting to even say, but the higher end clients, the guests, the ones that pay more, through Delaware into Jersey and New York and down. It's one of the big pit stops for smuggling these children to the higher end clients into DC and then go. And then the interviewer interrupts and says, are you aware of any of the types of children that Biden would mostly request? John McGreevy proceeds and says he had boys too. He liked girls. He preferred girls. The interviewer asked, what's the age range? Interviewee says, which is John McGreevy, says pretty much anywhere, like 5, 6 up to 14, 15. He didn't care. He preferred 12 or 13. He did not like black girls. I know that was a problem. Sullivan had offered his granddaughter, and he wouldn't do it because he thought that they were all dirty. Biden's like that too. He's just he's disgusting in every way. But so, yeah, the interviewer says, are there any suits or complaints against Biden for these types of allegations, meaning lawsuits? Has anybody filed a lawsuit? So John McGreevy says, really, they've been quiet. They were all kept quiet. They've been manipulated. His wife is nasty. His wife, talking about Joe Biden's wife, Jill, his wife knew what he was like when she married him and has hidden it all along. When he was on the campaign trail before this one, obviously he couldn't be supplied with his normal appetite of children. So they sent the little granddaughter or the nieces out to keep him quiet and happy on the campaign trail in these various states. These poor children have never known anything but abuse and terror. So she, his wife, talking about Jill Biden, managed all that. She gave him access to the special children in the school that she worked at years ago. The interviewer asks John McGreevy, are there any rumors of tapes with Biden on it moving around and then he says there are. Biden's a lot smarter about that than his son, obviously, but there are tapes. The interviewer says, uh-huh. And then the interviewee, John McGreevy, says Hunter supposedly had some of them, but there are videos that he's made. There are Skype videos where it's him, but it's him from down there with a child doing this, where he's talking to someone else and you can't see the face. He can identify you, or we can identify him by his nipples or something, but it's him. So he's just a lot more suave about that. He's been a politician a long time. He's more careful. The interviewer says, uh-huh. And then John McGreevy proceeds and says, I don't think he carries a phone anymore. His staff takes care of phones, so there's really nothing really close. The interviewer says, what can you tell us about the Hunter Biden abuse? Was there abuse towards Hunter Biden by him? Oh, yeah, John McGreevy says. The interviewer says, that you know of Hunter Biden as you know, individual? And then John McGreevy says, yeah, it was his other son that was the one that was picked to be the political successor. The interviewer says, oh, And then John McGreevy says, and Bo, which is the other son, Bo actually covered up a big abuse scandal at the hospital. This one doctor and many other things, Bo had covered up stuff, accusations against Biden, Joe Biden. He was attorney general before he passed away, and he covered up cases and accusations against Joe Biden. He had covered up a doctor at the hospital with over 1,000 victims. Man, just makes you wonder how a doctor can get away with that. Over 1,000 victims. And Biden has copied all of those that he has provided by his son, Bo. He was given copies of everything the doctor had. The doctor was videotaping his stuff in his office when he was abusing over 1,000 children, and he was given copies of it. Biden loved it. As far as Hunter's laptop, I haven't seen it. What I've been told from them was that the FBI got it originally, and they immediately went through it and took out anything that would implicate them or Biden or anything like that. But the one that came from the repair shop is the whole copy that's still on there. So the original FBI copy is not going to match the one that they've got now. So, and then the interviewer says, gotcha. Okay. Anything else in here? The unknown female whispering, and we can't really make out what she says. And then the interviewer says, so I guess the main tie-in for you for most of this information has been through Sean Bridges, as he was editing and putting these things together to be given to Biden. Are there any other corroborating accounts or other people that have been in your circle that would be able to back these things up as far as, and then John McGreevy says, well, yeah, I mean, there's the other people in the dirty trick squad. I mean, that absolutely exists. There are actually references to it in the court documents. I referenced it in court documents, but good luck with them. I mean, they're going to be, they're going to be admitting to what? Murder? And then the interviewer goes, uh-huh. And John McGreevy says, planting child porn, treason, sedition. I mean, you'd have to make one hell of a deal to get them to talk. The interviewer says, yeah. And then the interviewee, John McGreevy, says, but I mean, I certainly know what's going on. They certainly know me. The FBI is not going to talk. They're dirty as the day is long. They should be disbanded. He's talking about the FBI. Now, that reminds me of Haim Harlow from Friday. I was a little bit surprised. Don't know really what to think about this, but what he said was he was saying only 5 or 6% of the CIA is no good, but that the FBI should be really, completely trash. He was saying it's pretty much all no good. And so when you think about it, he's saying, this is John McGreevey. He is saying the FBI is not going to talk. They're dirty as the day is long. They should be disbanded. Interesting. Okay. And then the interviewer says, all right, well, thank you, Ryan. And that's the end of it. So that's the Joe Biden section. We've got 2 more sections. We'll cover the Rosenstein one another day. And then also the one that is called torture. And that one, I'm pretty sure, has to do with John McGreevey being tortured. So it's a lot we've covered today between the Sean Diddy Combs stuff, and then, of course, talking about the dock workers. Let's cover a couple of viewer comments and questions before we end. So FlyGirl61 says, as a mother and a grandmother, I couldn't imagine any parent handing their child over to these psychos, knowing what was going to happen to them. It's hard enough processing the abuse of the children. I know. I'm right there with you. Yeah, I can't even. I'm like, where was Justin Bieber's mom? Like, that's what I want to know. Where was the mom? How would she not know her 15-year-old son was being handed over? I mean, like, I just find that hard to believe. At some point, something didn't go off. Something wasn't adding up. It just is very interesting. Janine MHF says, I remember hearing Biden say in a video to a small child, I'll see you at such and such house. Well, there you go. We've seen all the videos of him sniffing kids and stuff. So Cheryl Bosch says, these people are so sick and twisted. It's unbelievable how evil that they truly are. Yeah, I think that we probably still don't really know exactly how evil they are. Some of the victims will never be mothers from the torture, talking about what happened with Sean Diddy Combs. Eagle Hawk 8 says people thought Tom Hanks and Ted Bundy were friendly, likable guys. People show you who they really are. It's pure evil. Yes. Linka Anna 59 said, I believe this is the time of reckoning, nowhere to turn. Good point. The whole nation is hurting. Only the truth will set us free. I would say the truth, yes, the truth sets you free. I think also by that truth coming out, it will open some eyes to those that, think about it. My viewers know, we know, right? I was talking about this back on February the 28th. About what I was hearing and what I was thinking what was coming and how big this really was. I talked even back then about companies and what did that press conference say today? It said there's corporations that are involved, banks, pharmaceutical companies, and hotels. I mean, something's up, and I think it's going to be much bigger. Remember, in that also I talked about that when you look at the lawsuit, which you can go to MichelleMooreShow.com, I was noticing that it would say like company, something like company, and then it said 1 through 10. So you're talking about many companies. So today's press conference is only backing up what I was saying. Hey, this isn't looking good. Now, at the time, I was thinking mainly it was going to be about the record labels, the music industry stuff. I'd never in a million years thought about banks, pharmaceutical companies, and hotels being involved. Now, what we want is we want some justice. We want some accountability, right? We don't want another person with a slap on the hand. We want some accountability and some justice to be done here. Now, one of the things that we also have to keep in mind is I don't think we can imagine what names are going to be coming out in this. I think some of this, even just listening to Allie Carter, who we talked about from last week, she covered some stuff that was just incredible. She's saying some names. And I remember back, 3 and 4 years ago when she first came out, she was saying, look, she was talking about Obama, Michelle Obama. She was saying Michelle Obama's really Michael. And so she was telling us back then. And so she was naming some names. And I think that this is, absolutely explosive information. Again, if you didn't see last week's show where we aired her video, the link is in today's show description on the Michelle Moore Show Rumble channel. Okay. So Eagle Hawk 8 says, didn't Mr. Harlow say that the FBI is compromised? He said the whole thing was corrupt. And he said, I would like to hear his view and Megan Walsh's view on this. Well, Megan will be here on Friday. We'll definitely be talking about Sean Diddy Combs, and you'll definitely be getting to hear what her take is on all of this. I will tell you that Megan was my source and I talked with Megan over the weekend and we talked about it. And I said, look, you were my source. You were the one that said back about 9 months or more. She said to me, keep your eye on Diddy. He's the one to keep an eye on. And she was very close in kind of a little bit of a removed way. Her boyfriend, I don't know if they ever got married. I think he's a father to one of her children, but he was very, very close to Kanye. So I think, she's got a very interesting perspective, and we're getting ready to hear some insight, I think, on Friday from Megan Walsh. I'm excited about having her on. She talks a lot about the corruption with CPS. She works a lot with people that talk about it as well. And so I'm very excited about that. We will be talking about CPS as well and whatever insight that she wants to share with us. And so I'm excited about it. I'm also working on an interview with a woman who was somebody who was trafficked by Epstein. And so we are in talks about what date works best for her. So we've reached out to her and waiting to hear back. And so we got some great stuff in the works, and we'll see what comes out. But we're trying to get you some firsthand accounts of people who interacted with these people and can give some, insight to what exactly was going on, not just with Epstein, but also with Diddy, and see, what in the world is going on here. I think that, and I would love to talk with Allie Carter, obviously, for you guys as well. What I love too is that, our show, when you watch live, you get to ask questions. And so I think that's one of the things that kind of makes us unique, right? So anyways, Sherry Halter says, looking forward to these. Also, I want to remind everybody, well, you may not know this. Let me just tell you. So Thursday, we're going to be doing a show again with Tom Althouse. Many of you wrote and said, please have him back. So Tom is coming back on Thursday, and then Megan is going to be here on Friday. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a special that has to do about Joe M. Do you remember the Joe M videos? Well, we're going to be talking about that and featuring a few things from him. And so I'm excited about that as well. So we'll see you right here tomorrow, next time on the Michelle Moore Show.
Are you tired of all the pills in your medicine cabinet? I'm Linda Bamber Olson, the creator of the Wave Watch, a more natural approach with 1,000 frequencies for mind and body. People have used the Wave Watch for kidney stones, arteries, blood, immune system, vagus nerve, myocarditis, allergies, colds and flu, ADD and ADHD, strokes, Parkinson's, carpal tunnel, thyroid, Lyme disease, and so much more. Wave Watch has a 1-year manufacturer's warranty for defects and flaws, and you can also upgrade to an additional warranty for water damage and breakage. Are you tired of all your pills and endless trips to the pharmacy? Why not try the Wave Watch with 1,000 different self-care ideas and put your mind at ease?
Just go to wavewatch.com. At checkout, use the code Michelle100 to receive $100 savings on your purchase.
I'm Dr. Fulgens. For over 30 years, UCB has helped customers strengthen portfolios with gold. But let them tell you in their own words.
Buying gold and silver from Universal Coin and Bullion has been one of the greatest experiences for me, and it's been an easy process and also a very safe process to do that.
Call now to secure your 1-ounce gold or silver American Eagle coin with no dealer markup.
Did you know your cell phone emits radiation that has been linked to increased risk of certain types of cancers? This is why manufacturers include hidden warnings to keep your phone away from your body. And what's worse is that children are more susceptible to the potentially damaging effects. Safe Sleep for cell phones is a case specifically designed to block radiation. Its shielding technology integrated into the case has been tested in a third-party FCC-accredited lab to block over 99% of RF and 92% of ELF radiation emitted by your phone. It also functions as a stand for watching videos and comes in a magnetically detachable style for some devices. Safe Sleeve also offers anti-radiation cases for tablets and laptops. It has free shipping in the U.S. plus discounted worldwide shipping is available. Go to truthtalkamerica.com today and click on the Safe Sleep banner on the home page. Use the discount code FIRST10 at checkout for 10% off your first order. For Michelle's social media links, go to MichelleMooreShow.com.